Hello, everybody. Much ado about you too. I'm gonna kill someone. Whoever wrote that line, I swear, that was such a bad line. I apologize for that. My writing staff is a little sick in the head with rhyming and other weird shit. But yes, if you didn't get from that, we are gonna go over Much Ado About You. It's a story. We should all know the story. It's the first of this film. It's an adaptation of Shakespeare's play with the same name, Much Ado. And even though it was written in 1589, the story was adapted to the letter. It had the same story. There wasn't really any major changes. There were the same characters, same almost everything. The only adaptations here was the director and the story adapter made it more direct to they made it more modernized. They honed it into this generation's. They had technology within frame. They had like iPods, TV, modern art, like from this day and era. From within like the last couple of years, or a couple centuries. It was very interesting to see that adaptation with that. Like I said, which was fine. It wasn't really a big deal because you don't necessarily notice it or really care about it within the film. But what absolutely loved about this film was that Whedon kept the Shakespearean play. He kept the language with it. Now, which if you've noticed, some play adaptations that turn into film, they don't tend to do that. They tend to modernize the film. Like if it's a gladiator story or like mythological story, they tend to modernize it with like today's culture. They don't go with with what they had back in the day. They don't use the real story. Here they use the real they do modernize the story, but they still keep the Shakespearean uh, language with it, and it's still and they kept and the with the original writing, I would say as well. Shakespearean is still one of the greatest writers of any generation we may meet. I mean, it was fantastic to see a modernized director like Joss Whedon, and we all know what he's capable of. Look at Avengers. He uses what he can. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Like again, he uses what he can, but he still sticks with uh, his main focus, which was trying to get what Shakespeare was trying to do. And since it's Josh Whedon is your mastermind behind this, everyone involved has actually worked with him in the past or is going to in the future. Whether it could be Dollhouse, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, Avengers. Everyone involved had a nice reunion back together. I mean, you have Amy Acker and Alexis Denoff and Reed Diamond, Fran Kranz, for all you should know from Dollhouse, and then you have some Avenger natives: Clark Gregg, Jillian Morges, and Ashley Johnson. I gotta say, it was great seeing Johnson back on the screen, even though we saw her in Avengers. Now, again, since I'm a '90s child, I've actually seen her. I've watched her since she was a kid. She was from Growing Pains. She was the little girl later in the seasons. It was actually very fun to see her back again, on the screen. But then of course you have my personal and all-time favorite, Mr. Nathan Fillion. Yes, you all should know him from Firefly. If you don't, you need to turn in your nerd card right now. I'm surprised Mark Shepard wasn't in this. That's how nerdy this was right now. And because I watch all these shows that all these guys come from, and I loved every second of it. Like all of them were fantastic in their roles. They took the Shakespearean language and they nailed it like every second that they got. Amy Acker was just completely fluent with the language. You know, I would love to see him in an actual play sometime instead of like knowing the role within a couple of like months and then doing it with. But when you're with a play, you have to know it right away and you're live. I would love to see these guys, do a Shakespearean play live. Like, I wish they could do that on stage. It'd be very cool. Um, like I said, Whedon left. Like I said before, Whedon left the Shakespearean wording for the dialogue. like I said, like I keep saying that, like you just heard me before. It was great and fun to hear and see these actors, especially with the modern actors. That these words. My friend and who apparently couldn't comprehend that fact, he told me as if Yoda was speaking. I guess he doesn't really listen to Shakespeare or know Shakespeare that often. But yeah, it was funny, but yet strangely mocking him, the Shakespearean culture. No, but nonetheless, though, I really liked this movie. It was completely fantastic. Everyone did a fantastic job. Its story was great. Now, if you know Shakespeare's writing, you know that the majority of them are filled with multiple deaths and betrayals and things of that nature. Here is actually one of his comedies that is actually the only play to actually have multiple weddings and very few deaths. It was it was actually it's one of his best comedies to actually look at. Which is why this is one of Shakespeare's most enjoyable plays. It's a great story. It's funny. If you can grasp it, God bless you. It's hard to understand Shakespeare's wording. I do recommend this, especially for those who are Shakespearean fans. Definitely, it's worth your time. Check it out. But you know what else is worth your time? Yes, subscribing to my channel. Yes, please do that right there, right on Mr. Superman. Uh, yes, I do apologize for the Superman. I do not have the Much Ado poster on me at hand. But if you do have one, I would love to have it because that was a really great movie, and I would enjoy having that type of memorabilia. Uh, alright, make sure you also share my videos on Facebook and on Twitter. Um, just make sure, give it a thumbs up over here somewhere. And for our next adventure, it will be the film novel adaptation of World War Z. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And before I go, make sure you guys go to this link right here. Bing! Right there somewhere. I don't know. I'm going to point. It's going to point right here. Right there. Thumbs up. It's at threadless.com. I had a design that was approved, and I would love to get everyone's vote. The more votes, the better, so I can get this printed. I would much enjoy it. I'm hoping all of you can vote for it. Give it a 4 or above. I would love to see this printed and have it sold out to the world. Just make sure you guys do that, and stay tuned.